that I sleep. I need to put on the frequency on the YouTube for prosperity and healing and gamma and alpha and delta waves so I can sleep. 'Cause I work night. I just posted a Facebook post wishing everybody a happy new year, but I'm pretty sure nobody ever reads the whole thing, so I put a TLDR saying, hey, happy new year, here's a few thoughts on space colonization and the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, but I didn't put it in that order. But here's the upshot of that post. If we stop using medicine and just rely solely on priesthood blessings for faith, healing, and miracles, then we're just being stupid. Our last prophet was a heart surgeon. He certainly believed in both God and medicine and science. But who knows, maybe he was just a big commie. There's a big split in Christianity today. Seems to think that if we favor capitalism, then we're heartless. Unless, of course, you've read the Book of Mormon and you understand that if everyone had been like Captain Moroni, the gates of hell would be shut forever. And Captain Moroni was no communist. He was, if I may, the first American. Well, anyway, space colonization. One of the greatest sci-fi movies ever, 2001: A Space Odyssey. So slow, such a slow burn. I can watch it once a month maybe, but more than that probably not, because it's a slow burn. But I'll wager most of you haven't seen it, so let me just cut to the chase right now. In that movie, it cuts from the dawn of man, evolving into using bones for tools and using violence kind of as a political commentary. It cuts from bone floating in the air to a space laser, which is either an offensive weapon or a defensive weapon. I'm guessing it's pretty much basically what SDI was envisioned to be. Nicknamed Star Wars in the 80s, which really, sent George Lucas over a bend about Reagan, even though Reagan was probably the most politically aligned with George Lucas's personal values. But George Lucas had to, remain cool and beatniky like he was from the 60s, like all his film school pals. But he was the only real capitalist in the bunch. Why do you think he didn't join any of the unions? Why do you think he was ostracized by Hollywood? Yeah. Because he made his films independently. Why do you think he never won any awards like his pals Coppola and Spielberg? join the unions because he moved Lucasfilm from LA up to Marin County. And then he finally sold it to Disney, so whatever. Now Lucasfilm can win all the awards it needs to because it's fully unionized and socialized and communistized. Bunch of pinkos. Anyway, what I was gonna say, in Space Odyssey, where all the guys going to the moon base because there was a discovery on the moon base, and in order to get there, he flies a low orbit Pan Am flight from the surface of the Earth to low orbit space station, which is like two wheels in space, much like the Vision of Elijah, wheel within a wheel. I don't know, maybe Chariot of the Sky. But anyway, one half of it was under construction, but he went to the functional half. And then from there, he took a different space vehicle that could go from Earth orbit to the moon with a lot less resources because he didn't have to break the bonds of gravity. So you take a shuttle to get into orbit, and then you take a big lunar lander to get to the moon where the base is. Yeah, and then that's where they found Tycho Electromagnetic Anomaly 1, Magnetic Anomaly 1, I forget what it's called, but anyway, TMA, I guess, Tycho Magnetic Anomaly 1. My point is that if we're ever going to colonize space, we need to build a low Earth orbit space station that's like a city in space. And then we need to make all the rich people want to live in space. In Doorway to the Universe, Doors to the Universe, Sylvia Engdahl suggests that most of the advanced civilization that are members of the Anthropological Service are born on and live in floating space cities. That the actual planets are basically national parks. They're just preserved in their natural state because mankind can colonize into space and just have a planet that they don't actually live on, but they can harvest its resources to keep them alive in space. Now you would need centripetal force, a spinning wheel, to simulate Earth gravity so our muscles didn't atrophy. Anyway, that is step one of colonizing space. Now, a lot of people argue we need to solve world hunger and all the inequities and all the unfairness. And then we basically need to live in utopia and also solve climate change before we can start colonizing space. But Sylvia Engdahl argues that we're not going to solve all those problems without the use of extraterrestrial resources and discoveries along the way that help us to solve those problems. So, first step, step one, low orbit city in space. Step two, gotta make a moon base. Step three, terraform Mars or Venus. Step four, well, maybe I skipped a step because we gotta do a colony on Mars and or Venus before we terraform them, or maybe we just terraform them robotically and then colonize them. I don't know. And maybe before we do any of this, we need to figure out how to build and launch a Dyson sphere around the sun in helio orbit between Mercury and the sun. And then harvest solar power on an exponential scale. So I don't know how we would transport that power back to Earth. Maybe Tesla could have told us, but unfortunately Edison destroyed Tesla. So even though I respect Edison, he was kind of a dick. And he probably, with his goons, set back wireless electricity and power by a century. Fortunately, all the filmmakers moved out to Hollywood, so Edison couldn't monopolize the film industry. So maybe we can use the film industry to get everybody inspired to want to go colonize space. I don't know. We certainly need to do some game simulations to get people thinking about this stuff. So they're not just thinking about doing Grand Theft Auto and, you know, mayhem in the cities and stuff. Zombie killing. By the way, you want to prevent zombies from ever happening or any kind of a zombie invasion? I'm getting tired playing this. By the way, maybe space colonization is the answer, or maybe that's what creates the zombies in the first place. We bring them back here. I don't know. It's all very exciting. But Roy, doesn't looking out beyond this earth imply a lack of faith in the Lord to provide? Well, maybe. Does relying on modern medicine indicate a lack of faith in the Lord? I would argue no, because Russell M. Nelson was a heart surgeon. And the other thing is colonization has become a dirty word. When Sylvia Engdahl talks about it in her 2017 afterword to her 1971 book, Far Side of Evil, which is a sequel to Enchantress from the Stars, she makes very clear that what we're talking about is colonizing worlds, all the exoplanets that are out there that do not have sentient life or do not have humanoid life. They might have animal life, but if you tame the wild beasts and domesticate them, that doesn't mean that you've colonized in the sense that, you know, the DEI leftist Marxists want us to feel bad about colonizing America rather than settling America. But here's the thing about Western civilization. We wouldn't have modern medicine if it weren't for Western civilization. So look, don't give me your Marxist arguments, all right, about the church. The church will take care of itself. Render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and render unto God that which is God's. And stop trying to blend the two. They are not the same, all right? Stop it. We can have Democrats and Republicans in the church. Satan doesn't care what we're fighting about, as long as we're fighting. And like they say in Interstellar, there's no evil, there's no true evil in space, only what we bring. We just have to overcome the challenges of space-time and gravity and transport. So how are we going to do it? Are we going to do it, be able to build faster than light star drives? Or are we going to have to master hyperspace travel where we sleep, go into hypersleep, suspended animation, as was the case in Passengers, where Jennifer, what's her name's plan was to travel out to Homestead 2, write about her experience there, and then travel back to Earth and be the only person in history to ever, centuries later, go out to Homestead 2 and then live there for a year and then write about it, because nobody else had done it. Knowing that all of her friends and loved ones left behind on Earth would be decades or centuries dead by the time she got back because of suspended animation. In passengers, they were going 50% of light speed. Maybe that's doable. Maybe not. I don't know. In Interstellar, they traveled by use of wormholes. And fifth dimensional constructs and higher, built by our future selves, basically, reaching back through time to help our ancestors figure out how to safely leave Earth and colonize space. I don't know, this is all mind-bending stuff, but anyway, like with my Facebook post, I want to wish everybody out there, all sentient life on planet Earth and elsewhere in the universe, all you extraterrestrials that have cracked the code and are just sort of like patiently amused, perhaps, watching us struggle, like parents watching through a one-way mirror at their preschool kids up at the U. I want to wish you guys Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, whatever your version of that is. And I want to ask you, please, help us figure out how to get ready so we can join your interstellar community if you are out there. And if we are the first life to evolve this far, and all other humanoid civilizations out in space are just pre-warp communities like ours and pre-nuclear, well, I guess we don't have to be too embarrassed. But I do wonder what all the conspiracy and secrecy is about all the UFOs and stuff like that. Trump said he was going to release the evidence, but he didn't. Every president that's ever promised to release the evidence has, at the last minute, basically released nothing. And is it because the advanced civilizations are protecting us for our own good? Or is it because we're slaves and they don't want us to be free? It's a little bit like religion itself. Does God want us to grow and develop with guardrails on? Or is he just cruel and heartless? Does he actually have a plan for us, if he exists at all? These are the existential questions that everybody faces at one point or another. So I'm going to tell you, live your best life, do your own journey, and trust your gut. If it both seems logical to you and feels good to you, maybe you should trust it even if it's beyond your five senses. Maybe you should trust your intuition. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that we cannot see, we cannot perceive. Oh, we can kind of perceive it, but not with our five senses. This is 20 minutes long now, so I'm probably going to have to wrap it up. was right about to have a breakthrough, but then I saw that 20-minute counter and I was like, I'm distracted. I can't go full in yet. But we can shortcut all of this, guys. Just read the Book of Mormon, pray about it, get a testimony of it. If you know that the Book of Mormon is true and not a fraud, everything else just falls into place. About Christ, about the Bible, about the restored Church of Jesus Christ, and about the future. But like I said, we don't sit around waiting for medical miracles to happen just because we have priesthood blessings and faith healing. And just because we know that Christ is coming again, second coming, doesn't mean we can't try and remedy some of these things ourselves. When Joseph Smith said something to the effect that when Zion is built, it won't just be members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints living in Zion. It will be men and women of goodwill from every religion and background around the world. And I was like, well, how can we build Zion? We didn't build the temple in Independence, Missouri, as instructed. Joseph Smith was martyred while running for president of the United States, by the way, I might add. Let's never forget that. He wanted to abolish slavery. Let's never forget that. It was the Democrats that did not want to abolish slavery. Let's never forget that. The reason pioneers didn't like the Republicans was because the Republicans were trying to break up the polygamy stuff. Well, Wilford Woodruff realized that when I, the Lord, give a command and my servants try to do it and they're unable to do it, I no longer require that thing at their hand, and that's why he suspended the practice of plural celestial marriage. Doesn't mean it was never a true principle. It just means we don't have to do it anymore. And it was only about 10% of the brethren that were called upon to enter into plural marriage. And that was back when, as they say, we needed to raise up seed. Well, who knows? If space colonization happens, there will probably be a lot of unofficial plural marriages out there. Kind of like there are now. You know, there are a lot of plural couplings. Not marriages, couplings. Well, as one senator famously said when they were failing to seat, what's his name? First U.S. senator who was LDS. I can't remember him now, but he said to the chief opposition, I'd rather have a polygamist that doesn't polyg than a monogamist that doesn't monog. Alright guys, I can filibuster. I can filibuster all day long. I got a lot of thoughts in my head, and I have very little self-control. But I do want to say, Merry Christmas. Live long and prosper. Happy New Year. And keep looking to the stars, to the heavens, but also look to the horizon, and also look to the ground, and make sure you're not stepping on anyone or anything who's about to be downtrodden. Look all over the place. Look around.